All right, everyone, let's go on an adventure.
It is time to adventure into the outdoors.
I'm gonna see what I can find. I've got my dog Jack here with me. Say hi, Jack.
Got my trusty bag to put the things that I collect inside. I got my boots, and I got my sunglasses and my regular glasses. So, let's see what we find.
A lot of leaves on the ground. A lot of old plants in my garden.
I think I'll just snag this big one here. Oh no, my bag!
There he goes. Looking for things to draw.
I'm finding these rock walls as I'm walking. This reminds me of something with a long tail sleeping. Oh, like it's a sculpture of some sort. Made out of rocks, but it's just sleeping.
Here's a pine cone. Bet I can find some cool leaves. I wonder if I'll find any feathers. There's been a lot of birds here. I'm gonna grab one of these, I think. Jack has abandoned me. He went home. I'm in the woods now. I don't see any feathers, but I do hear a lot of birds.
I can hear the birds, but I haven't seen a lot of them. They're in the trees. I haven't found a feather yet.
There's some little tiny pine cones on the ground where I'm walking. I'm gonna grab a couple of those. Another one.
And some other thing attached to it that we don't need. Put that right in my bag and keep going.
All kinds of woodpeckers out here. And a weird mushroom. That's neat. Not gonna pick that up. That's staying on the ground. Oh, I think I see something.
I'm not sure how long I can keep this going. Oh, not long. Look, a puddle.
Yep, there's my feather. Look at that. That is a blue jay feather. Actually, another one over there.
I haven't found a feather yet, but I'm pretty hopeful. Oh, nice! Look what I got. Got my bag.
4. Some sad blue jay. 5 without any feathers. All right, I'm gonna call that successful. I'm gonna start heading home now.
I've collected, I think, enough for my bag. I've got a few things in here. I'm gonna call that trip pretty successful, I think. I'm gonna start heading back and see what we can do with these.
Let's take another look at all the stuff that I found when I was outside. I found a couple pine cones, and these things are sticky, so wash your hands after you touch them.
I agree with Miss Brosnan. The pine cones were pretty sticky, and it really did help to wash my hands afterwards. I've got a couple leaves. I've got an acorn. I've got some bark.
I found some dried up plant left over from my garden. I found a bunch of blue jay feathers.
I got some pine needles here, and I have the feather that I found.
I also picked up this leaf on my way home. So for our project today that Mr. Hadley and I are going to teach you, This project is going to be an exercise in your observation and your attention to detail. So we are going to be drawing some of these objects. And the materials that you're going to need are very basic. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser if you have one. And you're going to need some pieces of paper. You can also use a pair of scissors if you have them, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with these scissors in just a minute. But for now, let's just get started with choosing what we want to draw. So since blue jays are my favorite bird and I happen to find a ton of feathers, I think I'm going to draw one of the feathers first. I don't think I'm going to go with the pine cone for now. When I was in art school, our teachers made us draw pine cones over and over again. I don't know if that's an art school thing. Did they make you do that, Mr. Hadley? When you were in art school, did you have to draw a ton of pine cones over and over again?
Yeah, I don't know why my teachers in art school asked me to draw so many pine cones. It did get a little boring after probably the 20th one. So I'm not going to choose the pine cones for today, but I will probably go with the pine needles. I only have one right here, so I'm actually going to choose this. So cool, let's get to drawing.
I think I'm going to go with one of the blue jay feathers. So I'm going to choose the one I want. I think I'm going to do this one. This one has some good color on it. Do you see it reflecting the sky? All right, so I'm going to get started here with my feather. I taped it to my paper so that it doesn't go all over the place. And maybe I can zoom in so that you can see better. All right, so since this project is about observation and attention to detail, I'm going to try to make my drawing look as much like this feather as I can. And so I'm going to start by looking at the basic shape. And this is something that we talked about. If you're in 4th or 5th grade, we talked about the basic shape when we were doing our pumpkin drawings. Sorry to remind you of such a traumatic time for you. I know that pumpkin drawings were really the bane of your existence. But let's get started by kind of blocking in this basic shape. It's kind of a long, sort of round, like if you took an oval and stretched it out really long. And I'm going to start by drawing lightly, so if I make a mistake, I can use my eraser to fix it. And next I see that there is a line running right down the middle of the feather. Can you see that line, kind of where it changes from gray to blue? So I'm going to put in that line because that will help me figure out where things go.
All right, so paying attention to the basic shape for the pine needles here, I'm actually going to start with this big shape here. All right, and then I'm going to focus on the other smaller shape that I see. So the point of this drawing, like Miss Brosnan said, is to make it look as much as what you're drawing. All right, so I'm just going to start with this basic, almost looks like a shape with 3 sides. That shape is called a triangle. Almost looks like a slice of pizza. All right, and then I see this shape right here. So that's just a line going down like that. So that's what I'm going to start with.
Now that I've got my basic shape, 4th and 5th graders, what comes next? I'm going to start to find my smaller details in the feather. So this is where I'm going to start finding these little areas where maybe the feather starts to break away. Looking even closer at my details, remembering that I have an eraser if I make a mistake. Paying closer attention to the shape of my feather.
Now what I'm going to go ahead and do, as Miss Brosnan just pointed out, is I'm going to start adding the smaller details. I know this line here doesn't really exist here, but it's just a way to help me piece together these other small details. And I'm not too concerned with counting every single pine needle, but I can see that there's a space right here, there's a space in the middle here, and there's a space right here and here. So I'm going to try and pay attention to those spaces that I see in between the pine needles, and I'm going to use my eraser to get rid of some of the lighter lines. As Miss Brosnan has pointed out, you can use your eraser to erase any mistakes that you might make. If you don't have an eraser, that's okay too. Just go lightly with the pencil or whatever drawing implement you're using. All right. And there's a bunch here. So I'm gonna and there's that one or two just kind of flailing off on the side here. Right. And then there's the stem right here. And it's not just one line. Make it more thick than that. I can see there's textures right here, so I can go back with my pencil and might use color for this, might not. I don't know. I think I'll finish the pencil part first.
And now if you don't want to add color, you can still make your object look a little more real by adding in some shading with your pencil. Remember how we talked about in art class, just adding some value can make your drawing look more like what you want it to look like, even if you're not adding color. So I went ahead and shaded that in, and if I wanted to add color, this is where I would go in with a colored pencil or any other kind of coloring tool, and I would add my color in where I want it. Just adding in some blue where I see blue. Did you know that blue jay feathers are not actually blue? There's no blue pigment in them. They only appear blue because they reflect the color of the sky.
I did not know that fact about blue jay feathers. I feel like I should come up with a fact about pine needles. Well, you probably already know this, but these pine needles are actually really helpful for the pine trees. Rather than having leaves, because leaves, they fall, when, obviously, in the fall. But when it's really windy, leaves are more likely to fall than pine needles, because when the wind hits the pine needles, it kind of just goes through these spaces. So pine trees, grow better or faster because the pine needles stay on, and the pine needles actually keep water on them. The pine needles themselves keep water, so they help the pine trees grow. They don't fall off. So that's what I know. Not much, but I think I'm gonna add color, or start adding color with the green. I'm using a crayon. I don't know why they're green. What do you think?
I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with these scissors now. So I think that for this, I'm going to find my leaf, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to very carefully cut my leaf in half. So I'm just going to take off this entire half of my leaf. Okay, now I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to put it off to the side, and now I have half of a leaf, and I'm going to tape that down to my paper. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil, and instead of drawing the entire object like I did last time, I'm going to draw the other half of my leaf. So I'm going to start once again with the basic shape. And I'm just going to pay attention. I see this is going down, kind of like a U shape. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then it goes down again and it makes an even bigger U shape. And again, I'm going lightly. So if I make a mistake, it's not a big deal, I can just erase it. And so now that I have the basic shape, I'm going to start adding in some littler details. If I like the way this looks, I might go back in and start going in a little bit darker. Don't press down too hard until you're certain that you like the line that you've made. And then if I wanted to add color to this, this is when I would do it. But I think I'm going to leave this one the way it is. I kind of like it. I did add a little bit of shadow where the shadow would go. You can do that if you want. I like adding a little bit of shadow because I think it makes it look like the object is coming off of the paper. Makes it look a little more real.
This is my pine needle drawing. I went back with crayons to color it in, and I did use some of the eraser on the pencil to get rid of the lines that were making that triangle shape. And I also, this is my leaf drawing, and I used the side of the pencil for the shading for this one. So thank you, Miss Brosnan. This was her idea. This was a great lesson to get outside, and I had a lot of fun with this. I hope you did too.
That's it for this lesson. I hope you try this. I hope you have fun. Thank you for teaching with me, Mr. Hadley. That was really awesome. I hope you enjoy your Friday and have a good weekend. Let us know if you decide to do this project. Take a picture and send us an email. We would love to see it. See you next time.